the chairman for the occasion, my big brother, the Pro VC who just stepped out, distinguished guests, members of the media fraternity, students, ladies and gentlemen. It is a privilege to be given this opportunity to share my thoughts with you as the keynote speaker in this maiden leadership conference birthed by Integrity Network. I have to state that I'm very much impressed with the vision of the organizers and the industry that they have put in to ensure that their dream has come to fruition. My limited reading has revealed to me that the great nations of this world have all been built by purposeful discussion of issues around the table. Ghana is a model democratic state, and therefore, our quest to become one of the developed nations of this world requires that we discuss issues devoid of partisan consideration. My emphasis, devoid of partisan consideration, but there's a catch. Dispassionate and open mind is what is required. I'm making this point in view of my background as a political animal, and also the fact that I just exited office as a Deputy Attorney General and Deputy Minister for Justice. So I've warned myself. But rest assured, I'm going to deliver as an academic and not as a politician. In this address, I intend to be as open as possible without forgetting the need to also be passionate as a Ghanaian. It is with this mindset that I'm speaking to you today on the theme, Responsible Leadership, a Catalyst for Integrity, Good Governance, and National Development. Let me at the outset state that my views about leadership align with the views of John C. Maxwell, a renowned American author, speaker, and leader, when he opined as follows, quote, "Leadership is not about titles," Doc spoke about that, "positions or flowcharts. It is about one's life influencing another." Quotations closed. It is beyond disputation that the conditions precedent to the realization of our collective effort to national development are responsible leadership and good governance. Equally incontestable is the fact that one of the key drivers of good leadership is integrity. A very big word, integrity. Integrity connotes uprightness and selflessness. It also means doing the right thing when you are alone and when no one is even watching you. My first thesis, therefore, is integrity makes a responsible leader. But is this really true? Maybe yes, maybe no. I don't know. I'm prevaricating in giving a definite answer because history may be replete with good leaders who have some deficit in their integrity, not relating to the abuse of state resources or their power, but their personal moral conduct. What I'm saying is that integrity, we all understand it. Does it mean that if we're a good leader, or you can be a good leader without integrity? And I'm not trying to give the answers. In this presentation, I'll be raising questions. I just want you to be thinking about the questions. Not because I don't want to give answers, but I want all of us to think together. Some of the questions are so nagging that when you get back home, you reflect over it. Over the years, our country has faced a myriad of economic challenges in its efforts to recover from the ripples of poverty and underdevelopment. Governments, both past and present, have explored various means to effectively minimize the biting impact of underdevelopment and poverty while pursuing more permanent interventions to deal with the challenges conclusively. It is for this reason that many young men, in the belief of better living conditions outside the country, have resorted to seeking greener pastures abroad, forgetting that every country is facing its own challenges. In Akampalas, we say, to wit, nowhere is cool. Ladies and gentlemen, the questions we ought to ask ourselves are: 1, what is national development? 2, what is good governance? 3, what makes one a responsible leader? And is it possible to have good governance and national development without integrity in leadership? That question, I've posed it. Is it possible to have good governance and national development without integrity in leadership? Don't forget, maybe I have to also now behave like a lecturer. I've earlier told you that a person may be a person of integrity when it comes to the management of state resources and not plundering the state resources into his private advantage. But he may have a deficit when it comes to his moral conduct. And so any lawyer will tell you, does morality count in some of these things? I'm just trying to tease your mind on some of these things, and then we move on. In addressing the team, I will explore these questions and give meaning to them as best as I can. So part 1 of my presentation, national development. Every individual, society, nation, and indeed the rest of the world aim to have some development. In our various homes, we want to see development, one way or the other, in terms of lifestyle. Being able to afford 3 square meals, buying the necessities of life and all. In the same way, the nation expects some development. Thus, the livelihood of the citizenry must be improved politically, educationally, economically, socially, religiously, and materially. Honorable Chair, the framers of our Constitution, in their collective wisdom, made extensive provisions on National Development Planning Commission in our Constitution. The reasons for this are not far-fetched. It is simply to ensure that our resources are utilized properly for the benefit of the Ghanaian people. So later I'll pose some questions here. National development, I must state, can be attained by prudent utilization of our natural resources that the Creator has blessed our country with. The ultimate aim is to present a germane avenue to unlock and foster economic prosperity for the good people of Ghana. As part of efforts to achieve national development, various governments in our history have rolled out different strategies. When I say governments, don't get me wrong, I mean both civilian and military regimes. Because in our history, we've had military juntas that performed to the admiration of most of our people. And people usually cite, in the 70s and even in the 80s. You may have the negatives, but they also had their positives. So we cannot discount military governments. All these efforts by successive governments are geared towards getting the nation to a much desired development. Nonetheless, the reality, as we all know or are feeling, is one that we cannot all herald with aplomb after 68 years of independence. A sad commentary. What then has hindered our national growth and development? Our nation is not bereft of human and natural resources. Fact. Equally, the nation has had governments in place at all times. Fact. No matter the form of government, as against failed states since 1957. So in Ghana, we've had governments at all times since 1957. That's not something that we can contest. Again, at least in the last 33 years, we have had uninterrupted democratic administration. So, what is amiss? The answer, I dare say, regrettably, is leadership. And that's why I'm happy that we are here today to confront this topic devoid of our emotions and then have it done once and for all, if it's possible. Part 2 of my presentation, leadership. Mr. Chair, it is of interest that every political leader or party during election periods blames each other for our problems basically because of leadership. So every party will say, these leaders have not performed well. Party B will say, they have not performed well. So we are just trading the accusations. But wherein lies the truth? From the time of military interventions to democratic change of governance, the song that echoes all the time is that there is bad leadership. Even those in military, the military people have intervened. One of the reasons has been that we are intervening because of what? Bad leadership. But is it really the case? Though this may not be entirely accurate, it is equally one that must not be ignored. Leadership has been described as the ability of an individual to influence or guide followers or members of society or a nation. There are various types of leadership styles. What's of concern here is who a responsible leader is. In my sober reflection on the subject, I posed the question, does it matter how development is attained? That's the question. Does it matter? If you have a very bad leader and you can get our development, does it matter? This is a question I want all of us to ponder, but I'll try to give some answers. After all, the end justifies the means. So that is the theory of some people that forget about the process but think about the results. History is embedded with examples of nations that have developed with extreme dictatorial leadership. And that's the reason why I posed that question. Since I have decided to keep the diplomacy in me intact, I have so moto declined the invitation to mention as examples of such states. I want to keep my diplomacy intact. But without a doubt, a lot of us here can give examples of such states. Can we even say that dictators are not responsible leaders? Another question. The Gen Zs, they see Traore from Burkina Faso and they are happy. So they be able to answer this question. And who measures the level of responsibility? Who measures it? Is it the person receiving it? And so if I'm in a country, I belong to a church, and I'm getting a benefit from the church, if even my pastor is a thief, my pastor is a dictator, so far I'm getting the benefits, my pastor is a responsible leader. That's the point I'm trying to make. Because I'm at the receiving end. I have intentionally raised these thought-provoking issues for us to ponder over and sub silencio come to the realization that responsible leadership is a very fluid term. It is always defined by the person at the receiving end. At the end of my address, however, I'll propose to define what responsible leadership entails, at least from my received learning. Distinguished guests, as I mentioned, leadership may be the cause of our economic woes, poverty, crimes, corruption, and injustice. It is for this reason that it is posited that a responsible leader may be a catalyst or the enzyme to development we all yearn for as a country. This is prevalent in other jurisdictions such as Malaysia, where responsible leadership has within a short period of time after their independence moved from being a third world country to an upper middle income and highly industrialized economy or country. The same may be said of Singapore, whose foremost leader, Lee Kuan Yew, my doc mentioned, has boldly written about his nation's success story in his seminal book titled From Third World to First. Leadership is an indispensable ingredient for development in whatever and whichever sphere we find ourselves in. A responsible leader may have certain principles associated with him or her. Here I'm being gender biased. Neutral. I remember someone chairing a program and when a person was about to be introduced was a woman. And the young man said, our chairman is in the person of Madam ABC. Madam ABC said, how can you call me a chairman? I'm not a man. And so don't call me chairman, say chairperson. But what she forgot was that if you use chairperson, the last three alphabets of the person is what? Son. And this one to find, the next question will fine, son. Then I don't like the son. Let me use chairwoman. Now, if you take woman, the last three alphabets, M-A is what? Man. So maybe the chairman or chairwoman, the same. So that's what by here they said he. So these are some of the principles that I've seen, or some of the attributes of a responsible leader. One, he is a servant of the people. He places the interest of the nation ahead of his personal interest. I pose the question here. Is this really the case in Ghana? Go and answer. 2, a responsible leader is a steward. In our country, the president, when I say president, I'm talking about the current president or president. The president is entrusted with all the natural resources as evinced under Articles 257 of our Constitution. So question, has this stewardship role been discharged well in Ghana? Please go and answer. 3, a responsible leader must be a person of integrity. That is, the leader must mean what he says and must do what he also says. He must be consistent with his words, actions, and conduct. So question, can we vouch for the leaders on this? Go and answer. 4, a responsible leader must be empathetic. He must understand the people with regard to their challenges, fears, experiences, feelings, and emotions. He must live as one of them to ensure a good relationship with the people. So question, can we cite examples in Amagana? Go and then think about it. If we get the answers to the above questions right, then we can say without any fear of contradiction that we have arrived as a people. But I dare say that the country has had its growth and development impeded by leadership issues. Responsible leadership will ultimately cause a wind of change in the development of the nation. It becomes a sine qua non. The lawyers may hold to the Latin. It becomes a condition precedent for good governance and development. Responsible leadership is the key to progress, as education is the key to success. Without a responsible leader, the rising star, after liberation from the colonialists, will be a scar on us. I will, in my opinion, admonish schools to have courses on leadership so as to train our young ones the importance of having good leaders in our country. I'm making this suggestion because those of us sitting here are already polluted. We've been corrupted. When I mention integrity, I mean, everybody say, yes, I'm a man of integrity. But what do you do when nobody's watching you? If you're a public servant or you work for someone and you live in a D2 accommodation, you don't pay light bills, you don't pay water bills. How do you use the water? How do you consume electricity in your home? The car that you've been given as a public officer, how do you use it? If you were the owner and you were paying for the use of the vehicle, will you have used that vehicle to cut wood from your farm? Question. If all of us were saints, then definitely the word integrity will not be part of our diction. But because we are no saints, that's of integrity in our diction. And so, let's move along, please. Let's look at that. I again reiterate that without responsible leadership, which is the cure to our problems and challenges as a nation, the issues of unemployment, very key. I can see my brother here on my left, YA, and the development and poverty will be diagnosed at various seminars like this one, symposia and events. Nonetheless, the disease will remain uncured if the question of leadership is not eliminated from, or is eliminated from the equation. Part 3, ladies and gentlemen, good governance. This one's on good governance. Good governance encompasses the processes and structures that guide political, economic, and administrative affairs. It ensures that public institutions conduct public affairs and manage public resources effectively and transparently. It upholds human rights and the rule of law. And so good governance is not really about a leader. Those of us who work under the leader, how do we manage our offices? Are we responsible? Are we transparent? And so this is an aside. You look at the issue of Galamsey. It has been with us for a very long time. But we're having challenges all because we've diagnosed the problem, but we've taken leadership out of the equation. We need to fight it. And in fighting such a canker, you will definitely meet some stiff opposition. But as leaders, we must fight it regardless. I was telling someone yesterday that see a Ghana where in the next 25 years or 20 years, my children and possibly my grandchildren may have to import water. And at the time that I'll be an old man somewhere, they'll start blaming me. Daddy, Grandpa, at the time that it was happening, we were part of the system. And if care is not taken, after we are dead and gone, our great-grandchildren will come to the cemeteries, exhume our bodies, and burn us because we don't merit to be under the soil that they're going to live on because we've messed up the environment for them. And so all of us must be part of that fight. The United Nations has identified 8 key attributes of good governance. And these are: 1, participation; 2, rule of law; 3, transparency; 4, responsiveness; 5, consensus orientation; 6, equity and inclusiveness; 7, effectiveness and efficiency; and 8, accountability. And so if you want to see whether a system is being run on the good trajectory, or if you want to see good governance, use this index to measure. Then you can know. A careful examination of the indices provided by the UN, enumerated above, reveals that Ghana is not faring badly at all when it comes to good governance. But I'm saying this if you are to compare and look at other states. Those of you who have been to other West African states, you look at their system, you come here, you say Ghana is the United Kingdom of Africa. I remember being in Gambia. I was in Gambia for so many times. And then some of these young men will be telling me, Ghana is our London. Ghana is our London. And they say so because you look at their system and you come to Accra. I mean, that's a problem also. And you realize that Ghana is indeed the London of West Africa. Even our big brothers, I'm saying because they are more than us Nigerians. You get to Lagos, you get to Abuja, you get to your big cities, and you come down to Accra. And for that matter, Ghana, you see that Ghana is a good place to live. That's why they are all in Ghana now, trying to enjoy. So please, our country is not all that bad. It's not all that bad, but we'll get there. But I must be quick to add that there is more room for improvement. It is my humble observation, though I may be wrong, that as we progress on our democratic journey, instead of striving to raise the bar on good governance, the opposite appears to be the case. A sad observation, and I'm going to demonstrate it. This downward trajectory, from my point of view, is attributable to extreme partisanship. Extreme partisanship is very cancerous and ought to be checked. We are sliding down just because of extreme partisanship. We need to move away from there. And now I have an epilogue. Then the epilogue will end my presentation. There is a symbiotic relationship between responsible leadership and good governance. The interplay between responsible leadership and good governance fosters a governance architecture characterized by legitimacy, trust, and sustainable national development. But what is key in all this is integrity. Leaders are always chosen from followers. Listen to me well. Leaders are chosen from followers. They reflect their followers. Therefore, it is fair to infer that bad leaders are the product of bad followers. And so if you see any leader there who is bad, it means that we ourselves are what? Bad. Because that person or those people were part of us. This is a bit contentious, but I've said it. Bad leaders are the product of bad followers. If this conclusion is right, then may I ask each one of us here, are we really men and women of integrity? Let me now behave like the pastor who is delivering a sermon to touch your heart. Are we indeed men and women of integrity? Search it through your heart. If the answer is yes, then we can have leaders of integrity. Looking into the crystal ball, I do not see all gloom and doom. I see hope. I see perseverance. I can feel the can-do spirit in the Ghanaian. Above all, I see the Ubuntu spirit. Togetherness is key. Oneness is needed more than ever. Let us all do our part. And with that, good leadership will smile at us. With integrity, good leadership will birth good governance. And surely, national development will not elude us. The great American Supreme Court judge, Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes, once said that there are 3 types of people. There are people who make things happen. There are people who watch what's happening. And there are people who do not have the slightest idea of what is happening. Of these 3 types of people, my question to you today is, where do you belong? Ask yourself, where do I belong? Implicit in that question is the issue of leadership. So, you are the best person to be able to ask and answer that question. Whether you are a leader or a potential leader, you know yourself better. Are you a leader? Or you think leadership is something which is never within your reach? Ask yourself that question and answer it yourself. Think about it henceforth, anytime and anywhere you find yourself. May God bless our homeland Ghana and make it great and strong. Thanks for your audience. Thank you very much.